This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock, joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. I just have to say on the front end here, there are no secret recording devices here, like in the White House Situation Room, are there?
I have none. I do have my phone in my pocket, and if it's accidentally on record, I apologize, but we are not quite in the Situation Room. Why would they in there to start with?
Because he was firing her.
I know, but is that where they go to fire crazy personnel?
Well, it was a situation.
Definitely. She's a situation. This administration is a situation. So maybe everything should be done in the Situation Room.
The whole thing is just smacks of caricature to me. I mean,
it's the celebrity apprentice culture, not metaphorically, actually transferred to the White House. And I got some more things to say about that if we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Okay, yeah.
But we'll throw in the mix there, then let Rudy Giuliani just take over the Sean Hannity show on top of all of that, too.
In response to all that, what I want to say is this. I was watching yesterday as you had a very substantive interview with our junior United States Senator, Tom Cotton, for whom I harbor not many good feelings. But I respect that he's intelligent and he expresses his point of view. And he is explaining everything that's going on in a way that is perfectly logical. I disagree with the Iran deal, but he makes the case that the United States did a reasonable thing by getting out of it and trying something else. Russian policy from the Congress to the administration is much tougher than the chummy rhetoric we hear from this president. The economy, all of that. It's a perfectly normal sounding thing. And I credit him with that. But the thing, and I know, the thing, I'll just tell the truth, I kept thinking during the interview, Roby, just lean over to him and say, but how big a problem is it really that the president is nuts? Because the issue with Trump is no economic indicator. It's no policy. Even the tariff thing maybe is reckless. The Russian stuff is reckless in rhetoric, but as he explained, a lot of tough things are being done. This administration is just bizarre.
It's the
troublingly.
Drama. It's the drama. It's the chaos.
Chaos, drama, and instability, and immaturity, and recklessness. What's her name? Omarosa. What is she doing hired in the first place? And what else can there? Every week we think this is as silly as it will get, but the threshold keeps lowering. Anyway, that's my view. It's the Trump administration. If you could just break it down and look at all of the data and think about the policies, it's not terribly abnormal. It's the behavior. It's simply the behavior.
Now, I will say this. I will say that there is some data that contradicts what Senator Cotton and I were talking about, and we pushed that around a little bit there.
On what?
It's on the economy in particular, when he was talking about what the Republican messaging was going to be this fall, and what the Democrats' messaging was going to be. I mentioned the deficits are rising, the national debt is rising, wages are stagnant. You got these higher gas and consumer prices from the tariff activity, and his response to that was, well, Democrats would be wrong if they said that was what was happening. And I'm like, that's what the evidence says. That's what the facts are. But I think there's going to be this attempt to kind of steamroll.
You did push back, but
voters as to what the reality is.
The growth rate, the addition of new jobs, business investment. As one who wishes Trump had never come near the presidency and could leave it as soon as possible, those are numbers you can run on.
But in the context, they are the continuation of about 6 to 8 years of positive economic news.
Right. But that was Obama, and Obama was a Kenyan infiltrator, don't you see? We can't take him seriously. Do you know that Obama inherited like a nearly cratered economy, and it steadily improved during his tenure. And this 4% growth that Trump called a news conference to celebrate had occurred in about 4 or 5 quarters of the Obama presidency. That's an important perspective. I'm just saying, I don't want to argue the economic indicators with you. I just want to say this presidency, in terms of its data and policies, is not as weird as the people. It's the people that worry me more than anything else. Even as I disagree, I long for simple policy disagreement rather than, I cannot believe the man who is the President of the United States just put that on Twitter. I can't believe he just said that, or he just hired her and she just said this on Meet the Press, and it's all from the cast of Celebrity Apprentice. That's the greater problem. The cultural decline is the greater problem than any policy debate we might have, or any debate about our economic health.
Well, let's take a thread. I'm with you on that.
Right.
Let's take a thread, and that's where I try to keep these conversations centered, as you so astutely observed, in that when we had these conversations, I didn't lean in and say.
I think you wanted to start somewhere else, and we went off on this.
It's okay.
But that's the fluidity of our conversation. I was at Arkadelphia over the weekend and had several people tell me they get a kick out of our byplay here. So that's good.
So you were in Arkadelphia to speak to a group?
I gave you a segue.
You did. That was awesome.
No, I was there. I went to the.
You were there to observe.
Yeah, I had spoken last year to the Clark County Democratic Clinton Dinner, which is a big South Arkansas event every year, because last year they couldn't find anybody else to speak. This year, Jared Henderson was speaking, the Democratic nominee for governor, and I had heard all week that the big Clinton dinner in Little Rock the weekend before, where their Montana governor was the keynoter, that the speech that had everybody buzzing was a brief presentation by Jared Henderson, that he was fashioning a message and delivering it well. And I thought, okay, since he's going to keynote the one in Arkadelphia, it's an hour's drive. Yeah. I went down and heard, and he has fashioned a strong message, and he makes a good presentation, and is an emerging political talent.
What did he talk about that impressed you?
He talked about the fact, and this is, well, let me condense it because I tend to go on to it. We expect too little of ourselves in Arkansas. We're too good a state to put up with our low rankings. We've got to expect more, aim higher, and do so with deserved confidence. We produced a president. We produced some of the world's leading businesses. We produced Johnny Cash and Maya Angelou. We elected the first woman to the U.S. Senate and the youngest woman to the U.S. Senate, and Blanche Lincoln had to carry away the former. And his best applause line was, maybe in 2020 we'll elect a woman to get rid of Tom Cotton, to tie the last thing together. And then he says, if expecting more, I propose something that people tend to scoff at in Arkansas. I say that in 10 years, if we want to do it, we can do it. We can have the, adjusted for cost of living, the highest minimum starting teacher salary in the country. And let's go do it.
Because education is the key to all
his whole deal is education. He was a, and Arkansas loses the brain drain that we always talk about. Jared Henderson is a Harvard MBA, Harvard Master's in Public Administration, went to work for McKinsey, the consulting outfit that always hires the elites right out of the colleges, worked for NASA, came here and was executive director of the Teach for America program because education is his thing. And I think that's the way he's trying to fashion his message and the entire state Democratic Party message, that it's education. It's an age-old issue, but he does so with some passion. He talks about his own story. He was born to an unwed mother, a 17-year-old who he does not know, who gave him up for adoption, and he got lucky, adopted by these wonderful folks in Springdale. And when he was at a school in Helena, a young black elementary age girl said, "Where did you grow up?" And he told her Springdale, and she said, "That's the right place, isn't it?" Meaning she had not had such good fortune. So all of that makes for a passionate, good speech and good message.
He's finding his footing. He had a slow start to this.
He had a very slow start, and I wondered if I knew he had fine credentials, but I wondered if he was political material. Yeah, he's finding a message, and he's finding a good way to express it, which is not to say that Asa Hutchinson is quaking in his boots. He isn't.
Right.
He's going against an entrenched popular, accomplished incumbent Republican governor in a state that's gone red simple, but still, we've got an actual message on the Democratic side that is well expressed.
Do you think that the teacher plan that Jared Henderson has laid out there, do you think that resonates with voters? Do you think it will sell?
You know, I think it will. If he could have, as with everything else, telling it to a room full of Democrats on a Saturday night in Little Rock and then another room full of Democrats on the next Saturday night in Clark County, and having me, the token left of center columnist from the statewide paper, say that it's a good speech, he's basically spoken to a choir there. And absent money or a higher profile, it's not going to resonate. But I think that this message that, hey, we're not a bad state, and we just go around just belly aching about being 48th or 49th, and we've done it chronically. Let's do something about it. I think, given the opportunity, that's a message people could start to think about. They could attach his candidacy to a changed and better concept.
It's almost like getting a new Razorback football coach, isn't it?
Yeah, and he's undefeated.
There's a column suggesting idea for you.
He's undefeated and so far, and very popular. And well, I was going to say, Asa Hutchinson chose to respond to that to Henderson's proposed teacher plan through a written statement signed by an aide rather than addressing it himself. Just dismissed it perfunctorily as liberal. I got on the text messaging with the governor yesterday and asked him if he would mind engaging the plan personally himself. And that'll be my column tomorrow's paper.
Well, I will look forward to that.
All right then.
I want to take something from your column on Sunday here, last topic for us. I'm going to quote you here, which I don't do very often, but I'm going to do it just to feed your ego today, okay?
Well, feed me ego or humiliate me, depends on what you quote.
The two-party system, and you're talking nationally here, at least as it's degenerated to dysfunction, needs to be blown up. You suggest it should be replaced with a multi-party system here. You're going all Europe on me here. Is that what you want?
Yes.
You do.
Well, see, when I write things in the paper and people say, do you really mean that? I think, well, what did you do? You think I just sat down and just made it up? Yes. I think, and it's not going to happen, but it's not worth putting out there that we have thriving, well, we have thriving nations of progressive Western thought that have governments, that have political systems in which rather than two parties, which we've had in the United States, that in our case have become so embedded to their own bases and their own money that nothing gets done. In some of these countries, progressive countries, modern countries, they've got a race for party leadership in a parliamentary system that would produce a prime minister. They may have 24 parties, and nobody gets over 50%. And when they have to, after the election, they have to try to figure out now who can team up and form a functioning government. Regrettably, nothing could likely not happen here. It would have to happen in a slow, incremental evolutionary state over decades. But we would be better off because we can't do anything right now. I think we can agree. This
unless your party is in control of all branches.
Right. Well, even if they can, the Republicans
branch.
Didn't do anything about health care. Except incrementally try to dismantle it without legislation. But if you had, say, if you start in the center of current American political thought and try to build a governing coalition that would go from, then you'd have McCain, Romney, Kasich, people like that, with maybe Bullock, Mike Beebe, even Bill Clinton. I mean, you'd find a center-out mainstream in both directions. Mm-hmm. that wouldn't agree on everything because they're different, but would agree on enough and agree in concept that maybe they could get things done. And I also said in this column that I wish, we've gotten into something in recent years in which, here's how we pick Supreme Court nominees. The president, be it Obama or Trump or Bush before, you find a sitting federal, usually appellate federal judge, whose record is known. That this person, he or she, be it Sotomayor or Kavanaugh or Gorsuch, we can look at this record and we can be assured that this person will represent the pro-life position or the pro-choice position. We know how they're going to rule, and we can placate our political base. And so you nominate a judge, and Brett Kavanaugh, his life has been largely as a Republican political operative. I'm not to discredit his ability as a judge. He may be a fine fellow, but he's a known political quality. It's like putting Tom Cotton on the Supreme Court or Tim Griffin. The last Supreme Court nominee who was just a practicing lawyer out there that nobody knew anything about was football great and Rhodes Scholar Byron Whizzer White, 1961, 62, nominated by his friend John F. Kennedy. He had worked in Kennedy's campaign, so we could assume he was a Democrat, but he had no record of rulings, and he had no, other than he liked JFK, he had no record of political engagement. And today, historians, when you ask them, was Whizzer White a liberal judge or a conservative judge, an activist judge? They go, man, it depends on the case. Because he just seemed to have dealt with each individual case and tried to narrowly decide it. I wish to heck we could nominate somebody for president. We didn't know how they were going to vote.
Supreme Court?
I mean for the Supreme Court, that we didn't know how they were going to vote before the cases came up. So that it wouldn't all be so politically polarizing. I'm dreaming, but I appreciate you invoking that.
I think perhaps more than a multi-party government, you might be looking more for a fusion government or fusion.
Well, what are you going to fuse it with without multi-parties?
That you take the two.
Well, yeah, I'm not for more separation, more polarized parties. I'm thinking that if we had like the Move On Party and the Democratic Socialist Party, and then the regular Democratic Party, and then the regular Republican Party, and then the Tea Party, and then the Trump Party, that government would come, the fusion would be essential, and you're not going to fuse the Trump Party and the Bernie Sanders Party. Your fusion is going to come from the reasonable center. But it's not going to happen. We've got to fix it some other way, and I'm at a loss as to how.
Keep on writing about it.
All right, buddy.
All right, thanks for your time. John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. That is all for today's program. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us. Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
I did.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.